and welcome back.
Hi, everyone.
In today's lesson, we're going to help you speak English at a restaurant.
This is a really useful topic because eating out is something many people do in real life, whether they're traveling, meeting friends, or just enjoying a meal.
And even if learners know basic food words, they don't always know how to order naturally, ask questions, or react to what's happening at the table.
So today, we're going to show you how people really speak in a restaurant in English.
But before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
It really helps the channel grow and reach more people.
And it helps more learners practice English in a natural, real-life way.
So if you enjoy useful English lessons like this, make sure you subscribe and stay with us.
First, listen to our dialogue.
Then we'll come back and explain the key phrases step by step.
Let's get started. Hi, thanks for meeting me here. This place looks really nice, doesn't it?
Hi, yes, it does. It feels warm and relaxed, and the atmosphere is nice too. I've never been here before, but it already seems like the kind of place where you can sit and enjoy your meal properly.
I thought so too. It looked good online, and the reviews were positive, so I thought it would be a good place for today's lesson.
That makes sense. Restaurant English is one of those topics that people really need in real life.
Yes, people often know words like chicken, salad, or water, but when they actually sit down in a restaurant, they suddenly don't know how to speak naturally.
Yes, especially when they want to ask questions, order politely, or explain what they want.
All right then, let's imagine we've just sat down. What's the first thing you'd usually say?
Probably something simple like, "Could we see the menu, please?" or "Can we have a look at the menu?"
Yes, that sounds very natural. And if the menus are already on the table, then maybe the first thing is just to look through them and say, "This all looks good."
Or, "There are so many good options, I don't know what to choose."
That's very real. So, what kind of person are you in restaurants? Do you decide quickly or do you need time?
Usually I need a little time. I like to read the menu properly, see what kind of dishes they have, and maybe compare 2 or 3 things before I decide.
That sounds like me too. I'm definitely not someone who opens the menu and decides in 10 seconds.
Yes, and sometimes the descriptions make it even harder because everything sounds good.
That's true. So, if you're not ready yet and the waiter comes over, what would you say?
I'd probably say, "Could we have a few more minutes, please?" Or "We're still deciding."
Perfect. Very natural and polite.
And what about you? Do you usually know what you want to drink first, or do you decide that later too?
Usually, I can decide the drink more quickly. If I'm eating lunch, I might just have water or juice. If it's dinner, maybe something warmer or something a little more special, depending on the place.
That makes sense. So what would you say if you were ordering a drink?
I'd say, "Could I have a sparkling water, please?" Or, "I'll have an orange juice, please."
Yes, that sounds natural. "I'll have" is such a useful restaurant phrase.
It really is. It sounds relaxed and natural. So, looking at this menu now, what catches your eye first?
The pasta dishes, definitely. I almost always look at pasta first because it's usually a safe choice, and I know what kind of flavors I tend to like.
That sounds very sensible. I usually look at the main dishes first, maybe chicken, fish, or something with rice. Do you ever ask the waiter for a recommendation?
Sometimes, yes, especially if it's a place I've never been to before and I want to know what they do well. I think that's a very useful question.
Yes, definitely. So, how would you ask?
I'd probably say, "What would you recommend?" or "What's popular here?"
Perfect. And if you want to sound a little more specific, you could say, "I'm trying to choose between these two. Which one would you recommend?"
Yes, that sounds really natural. And sometimes it genuinely helps because some dishes sound good on paper, but are much better in reality than others.
That's true. So, what if you want to ask about ingredients because you're not sure what something includes?
Then I'd say something like, "What comes with that?" Or "Does that come with chips or a salad?" Or "What's in this dish?"
Very useful. And if you want to make a change?
Maybe something like, "Could I have that without onions, please?" Or "Could I swap the chips for salad?"
Exactly. Those are such practical restaurant phrases.
Yes, because real restaurant English is often about small changes, not just ordering one perfect sentence.
That's such a good point. It's not only I want chicken, it's often could I have the chicken but without the sauce?
Or, can I get that with vegetables instead?
Yes. So let's imagine the waiter comes now. What would you order?
I think I'd start with the soup because it sounds simple and good, and then for the main course, I'd probably have the grilled chicken with rice and vegetables.
That sounds like a very balanced choice. I think I'd go for the pasta with mushrooms and cream sauce, and maybe a salad on the side if I felt especially hungry.
That sounds really good. Would you have a starter too, or just the main course?
Probably just the main course this time. Sometimes I like a starter, but if I know the main dish will be filling, I'd rather not order too much.
That makes sense. I think I often do the same. If I order too much, I enjoy the meal less.
Exactly. So, if the waiter asks, "Are you ready to order?" what would you say?
I'd say, yes, I think so. I'll have the soup to start, and then the grilled chicken, please.
Perfect. And if you wanted to be a bit more direct but still polite, could I have the pasta, please? And could I also get a side salad?
Yes, very natural. What if the food arrives and something isn't right? For example, maybe it's cold or something is missing.
Then I'd try to be polite but clear. Something like, "Sorry, I think this was supposed to come with vegetables, but they're not here." Or, "Sorry, this seems a little cold. Would it be possible to warm it up?"
That sounds very good. Calm, respectful, and clear.
Yes, because I think in restaurants it's usually better to sound polite and specific than emotional or dramatic.
Definitely. And if the food is good, how would you naturally react?
I'd probably say, "This is really good," or "I'm glad I ordered this," or "The sauce is lovely."
Yes, those all sound very natural. And if you want to sound a little more conversational, you could say, "This is better than I expected," or "That was a good choice."
Yes. Or if the other person's food looks better, you can say, "Yours looks really good too."
That's very real restaurant conversation. Do you usually share food in restaurants, or do you prefer everyone to have their own plate?
It depends who I'm with. If I'm with close friends or family, I don't mind sharing a little or trying someone else's dish. But with people I don't know well, I'd probably just stick to my own meal.
That makes sense. So, how would you ask to try someone's food politely?
Maybe, "Can I try a little bit?" Or, "Would you mind if I tried some?" And if you want to offer some of your own food, you could say, "Do you want to try this?"
Yes, that sounds natural.
What about dessert? Are you the kind of person who usually has dessert?
Not always, but if the meal was light enough and the dessert menu looks good, then yes, I'm definitely interested.
That sounds honest. I think I'm similar. Sometimes I think I won't want dessert, and then the dessert menu arrives, and suddenly I change my mind.
Yes, that happens all the time, especially if they have something warm with ice cream.
Exactly. So, if you wanted dessert, how would you say it?
I'd say, "Could we see the dessert menu, please?" Or if I already know, "I think I'll have the cheesecake."
Perfect. And if you don't want dessert, but maybe tea or coffee?
Then maybe, "No dessert for me, but I'll have a coffee, please."
Yes, very natural.
What about the bill? That's another moment when learners often don't know what to say.
Very true. The easiest natural phrase is, "Could we have the bill, please?"
Yes, simple and perfect.
And if you want to ask whether service is included?
Maybe, "Is service included?" And if you're splitting the bill,
You can say, "Could we split the bill, please?" Or, "Can we pay separately?"
that's so useful. Restaurant English is full of these small practical phrases.
Yes, and that's why this topic matters so much. It's not dramatic English, but it's very real-life English.
You don't need advanced grammar to survive in a restaurant, but you do need natural, polite phrases.
That's such a good point. So, if someone asked you, "What are the most useful restaurant phrases?" what would you say?
I'd say, "Could we see the menu, please?" Could we have a few more minutes? I'll have. What would you recommend? What comes with that? Could I have that without? Could we have the bill, please?
That's a very strong summary.
What about you? What's the one thing you think learners should remember most in a restaurant?
I think they should remember that simple, polite English is enough. You don't need to sound perfect. You just need to sound clear, calm, and polite.
That's excellent advice.
Because in restaurants, confidence often comes from a few useful phrases used well.
And that's what makes this a perfect real English topic.
Okay, now let's look at the key phrases from the dialogue and see how to speak English at a restaurant more naturally.
Yes, because this topic is not only about food words, it's also about ordering politely, asking questions, and reacting naturally.
When we first sit down in a restaurant, one of the most useful things to say is something like, "Could we see the menu, please?" Or, "Can we have a look at the menu?" These are simple, polite, and very natural.
And if you're not ready yet when the waiter comes over, you can say things like, "Could we have a few more minutes, please?" Or, "We're still deciding." That's the kind of real phrase people use all the time.
When we want to order food or drinks, we often use phrases like, "I'll have the chicken, please." "Could I have the pasta, please?" Or, "Can I get a sparkling water, too?" These sound much more natural than just saying the name of the food.
Yes, and if you want to ask questions before ordering, very useful phrases are, "What would you recommend?" "What's popular here?" "What comes with that?" Or, "What's in this dish?" These help you sound natural and confident.
And when we want to make small changes, which happens all the time in real restaurants, we often say things like, "Could I have that without onions, please?" "Could I swap the chips for salad?" Or, "Can I have the sauce on the side?"
That's very real restaurant English because people often need little changes, not just one perfect order.
When we react to the food, we usually keep it simple. We might say, "This is really good. I'm glad I ordered this. That was a good choice." Or, "This is better than I expected."
And if there's a problem, it helps to stay calm and polite. You can say things like, "Sorry, I think something is missing." "Sorry, this seems a little cold." Or, "Would it be possible to warm this up?" That sounds much better than sounding angry straight away.
At the end of the meal, some of the most useful phrases are, "Could we see the dessert menu, please?" "No dessert for me, but I'll have a coffee." "Could we have the bill, please?" "Could we split the bill, please?" And, "Can we pay separately?"
These are exactly the kinds of phrases learners need in real life because they're practical, clear, and easy to use.
And really, that's the most important idea from this lesson. Simple, polite English is enough. You do not need complicated grammar to speak well in a restaurant.
Yes, a few useful phrases used naturally can make a huge difference.
Here's one short model answer you can copy and practice. First, I'd ask to see the menu. If I needed more time, I'd say we were still deciding. Then I'd probably say, "I'll have the pasta, please," and maybe ask what comes with it. If I wanted a change, I'd ask politely. At the end, I'd say, "Could we have the bill, please?"
That sounds clear, natural, and easy to use.
So, as you can see, speaking English at a restaurant is not about using difficult grammar.
It's about a few clear, polite, useful phrases.
And that's what makes your English sound more natural and more confident in real life.
And if you enjoy lessons like this, don't forget to subscribe.
It really helps the channel grow and reach more people.
And it helps more learners practice real, natural English.
So, subscribe, keep learning, and we'll see you in the next lesson.
Bye.